Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dale at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. What a busy week we've had. President Donald Trump says that ICE is racking up hundreds of arrests, including illegal immigrants arrested for a long list of horrific crimes. The mass deportation begins. President Trump also sat down with Sean Hannity last night for an exclusive interview. We have some of the highlights for you. Just 2 days into his term, actually 3 days now, President Trump's making waves in Washington. And a new Fox News poll shows that voters are still standing behind him. Also, President Trump ordered 1,500 more U.S. troops to the southern border in his effort to secure the border and to send a message: don't even think about crossing this border illegally. The House passed the Laken Riley Act, which means that this is the first bill headed to President Trump's desk.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Yesterday ended day 3 of President Trump's second term, and he's already delivering on his promises to put America first. Sitting down with Sean Hannity of Fox News last night, President Trump talked about how it felt returning to his old office.
Let's talk about the moment you walked back in this office, this desk, this room, your carpet. How'd you feel?
Well, it was a lot of work. And as you know, I felt that we shouldn't have had to necessarily be here. Could have been done. A lot of work could have been, it would have been over. We wouldn't have inflation. We wouldn't have had the Afghanistan disaster. We wouldn't have October 7th with Israel, where so many people were killed. And you wouldn't have a Ukraine war going on. But with all that being said, I think it's bigger. It's bigger than if it were more traditional.
I have to agree with him. It is bigger. And it leads to something you and I have talked about is I'm not so sure that this wasn't part of God's plan from the beginning. That God needed for Donald Trump and for the country, for you and me, to sit out the last 4 years, to really take stock with what's going on, to evaluate what our country is really into before putting Trump back into office. I think we've all have grown. It was a tough one. It was a lot of pain, but I think it was worth it because we're going to see so much happen in the next 4 years. We talked a bit about this, his bold move to eliminate federal DEI this first week, the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs with a sweeping executive order. One of many that he signed on Monday is really changing the face of the DEI movement. So let's break that down. A Fox News poll shows that a significant number of Americans are behind his decision. Nearly 1/3 of voters, 29%, say it's extremely important that Donald Trump focuses on removing DEI initiatives from the federal government. That number jumps to 44% among Republicans, 16% among Democrats, and 24% among independents supporting the end to these programs. So here's the White House's message on this move. Individual dignity, they say, hard work, and excellence are fundamental to American greatness. Every man and woman should have the opportunity to go as far as their hard work and competence, I stress that, competence can take them. In other words, it's about merit. It's not about identity politics. It's not about the color of your skin. It's not about how you identify. It's about whether or not you are qualified to do that particular job. That's how it should be, and that's how it's going to be going further into the future. The Office of Personnel Management is wasting no time. According to reports, agencies were ordered to begin shutting down DEI offices by the end of the day yesterday. I'm sure we'll get some reports today as to how successful that was. I think they understand, though, that Trump's not playing around here. This is a clear signal that the Trump administration means business. Let's not forget how we got here. DEI became a flashpoint in the culture wars following the tragic death of George Floyd in 2020. The Biden administration doubled down on DEI, signing an executive order in 2021 to promote these initiatives in the federal workforce. Voters, however, rejected that vision in November, citing inflation, rising prices, and cultural overreach as their reasons for backing Donald Trump and kicking Joe Biden and Kamala Harris out. And who can forget one of Trump's most effective campaign ads last fall? Remember the one that said Kamala is for they, them? President Trump is for you? It resonated with Americans who are fed up with the woke ideology and want to see a return to common sense and real priorities. The executive order is just beginning. It's just the beginning of Trump's mission to restore individual freedom, accountability in government, and to show the woke era out the door, to end this woke era. Also, during his interview, Hannity asked President Trump about Joe Biden's sweeping preemptive pardons of his family just as he was leaving office.
Joe Biden ran and said he would never do preemptive pardons. It was an issue that came up when you were leaving your first time.
He heard that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was given the option. They said, sir, would you like to pardon everybody, including yourself? I said, I'm not going to pardon anybody. We didn't do anything wrong. And we had people that suffered. They're incredible patriots. We had people that suffered. You had Bannon put in jail. You had Peter Navarro put in jail. You had people that suffered. And far worse than that, they've lost their fortunes. They've lost their nest egg, paying it to lawyers. And those people, and people said, and they wouldn't have even taken, most of those people, they wouldn't have even taken a pardon. This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him.
And then in another campaign promise, Trump wasted no time in this first week either in delivering on his promise to restore accountability at the FBI and to clean up Washington, to clean up the Justice Department. Just 3 days into his second term, President Trump has already initiated a major shakeup at the FBI, a bold move that signals there is a new era for the nation's top law enforcement agency. There's a new sheriff in town. Former FBI agent Nicole Parker breaks down the leadership shift in the agency in Trump's second term.
Well, I think that everyone agrees that the trust in the FBI is at an all-time low for a number of reasons, and the social and political weaponization at the FBI had really reached an all-time high. And with Trump coming in, those days are going to be over, and he's going to restore the trust of the American people in what was once known as the #1 law enforcement agency in the world. But it will take time. One thing that I think is extremely interesting is that, Christopher Wray chose to resign. He knew that a new FBI director would be coming on board. And in his place, the deputy director, who at the time was Paul Abate, was promoted up to being the acting FBI director. And he lasted in that position for not even a full 24 hours. And I think what's very interesting about that is that he had to have known that his days were likely very much numbered. It's been widely publicized and well known that Paul Abate was involved in pushing the raid at Mar-a-Lago. That was, brought up by the Washington Post. Also, he was very involved in pushing the January 6th misdemeanor cases that were worked rigorously at the FBI. And so I can imagine that he knew, rather than, being removed upon Trump's arrival, that it might be best in his interest to just move on. And I think that probably was a good idea on his part. I think that the FBI employees really crave true leadership, and they want a new beginning, and they want to get back on track to just fighting crime, getting out of politics, and protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution.
Now, you'll recall, we talked about last month, former FBI Director Christopher Wray, he stepped down. Acting Director Paul Abate resigned just hours before Trump's inauguration, and that's what the agent was talking about. President Trump swiftly appointed Brian Driscoll as the acting FBI director. Driscoll, a respected FBI veteran with extensive tactical experience, will lead the Bureau, while Kash Patel, a Trump ally and outspoken critic of the FBI, goes through the Senate confirmation process. And this could take a few weeks, month or so. I hope that the Republican senators will push these nominees through, get these confirmations done so that Trump can have his team in place, can have his cabinet in place, and can move forward. Trump also signed a memorandum titled Restoring Accountability for Career Senior Executives, making it pretty clear federal employees can and will be fired if they fail to meet the standards of the American people. This sends a strong message. The days of being untouchable because you are a career bureaucrat are over, as it should be. Too often, these federal bureaucrats feel like that they can't be fired, so they just do whatever they want to do. And by the way, did you see where he has ordered all federal employees back to the office? How many of you think will quit? Because they haven't been to the office. They probably can't find their way back to the office. But they haven't been going to the office because they don't want to work. As I tell you quite often, folks, buckle up. This is going to get rough. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. With the help of the GOP-led House and Senate, President Trump is poised to sign into law his first major piece of legislation since returning to the White House, the Laken-Riley Act. The bill, which passed both House and the Senate with bipartisan support, marks a very significant step forward in the fight to secure our borders and safer communities. The act is named for Laken Hope Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student who was brutally murdered last February by an illegal immigrant, Jose Ibarra. Ibarra, a Venezuelan national who entered the U.S. unlawfully in 2022 because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris allowed him to, would not secure our border. He was convicted of felony murder and several other charges late last year. This tragedy galvanized lawmakers to act. And now, with the Laken-Riley Act, Congress is taking decisive action to hopefully prevent similar atrocities. No family should have to endure what the Riley family has had to endure, losing their 22-year-old daughter to a person who should not have been here to begin with. How any Democrat or anybody, let's put party aside. Party has nothing to do with it. How any American could oppose something like the Laken-Riley Act, yet there were Democrats who voted against it. Now, fortunately, there were some Democrats who voted for it, too. Again, it passed with bipartisan support. But there were still Democrats who voted against it. Those Democrats should be replaced. I hope that someone's taking notes back home in their district and can recognize that they do not support America. They do not support our country. If you find yourself thinking about voting for one of the individuals who voted against the Laken Hope Riley Act, then you're part of the problem, because no American should vote for someone who opposes this. It could be your child who's murdered by someone who's entered our country illegally. Here's what the bill does. It requires the detention of any foreign national charged with serious crimes, including burglary, theft, shoplifting, assault on law enforcement, and any offense resulting in death or serious injury. It empowers states' attorney general to hold the federal government accountable if these detentions are not enforced, even allowing lawsuits against the administration if illegal immigrants cause harm in their states. In other words, hold some of these people accountable. Hold people like the attorney general in Arizona, who still says she will not cooperate with the Trump administration as they try to deport some of these illegals. Again, I don't wish this off on her family. I don't even know if she has children. But I wonder how she would feel if this had been her daughter or her son or someone related to her. The bill also puts pressure on foreign governments to take back their nationals. If a country refuses to accept deportees, the act mandates that the State Department halt visa issuance to those countries and their citizens. It's a no-nonsense approach. It's putting America first. It's putting Americans' safeties first, which is how our government should protect us. There shouldn't be any question. The legislation passed the House 263 to 156. Again, 156 U.S. House members voted against this. They were all Democrats. It passed the Senate 64 to 35. 35 senators voted against this. They should be primaried and they should lose their jobs. Even some Democrats crossed the aisle to vote for the bill because they recognize what common sense this is. As Republican Senator Katie Boyd Britt, a key sponsor of the legislation, put it, the American people are ready for secure borders and safe communities. The Laken Riley Act is a targeted piece of legislation that goes directly to the heart of her tragic death. Of course, not everyone is on board, as I mentioned, with 156 House Democrats voting against it, 35 Senate Democrats voting against it. House Democrat Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar expressed concerns that some DACA recipients could be affected. But here's the bottom line. This legislation is about keeping dangerous criminals off the streets and ensuring that tragedies like Laken Riley's never happen again. It's just that simple. How you oppose this, I have no idea. President Trump, of course, has been clear from the start. Border security, the rule of law are top priorities for his new administration, Trump 2.0. Signing the bill and sending a powerful message to those who seek to exploit our immigration system and endanger American lives and who think that we're weak. Well, I keep saying it, but it bears repeating. There's a new sheriff in town. By the way, we're learning about stories of some of the J6ers who received pardons by President Trump. His first action as he begins his second term, he granted clemency, and there's people who are questioning his whether or not he should have done this. He granted clemency to 1,500 defendants who were charged in connection with the January 6, 2021 Capitol protest. Among them is a two-time Olympic gold medalist, Cleet Keller. Keller, who won 5 Olympic medals during his swimming career, including 2 golds, was convicted of a felony charge in 2021 after he pled guilty to participating in the Capitol protest and entering the Capitol. He served 6 months of house arrest and was on probation for 3 years. But now, with the stroke of the pen, President Trump has pardoned Keller, giving him a fresh start. He spoke to the Washington Post saying that he's still processing the pardon. He said it didn't feel real. Waking up this morning, I was like, my gosh, wow, this is over. I really regret the actions I took that day. I love this country, and I'm just so grateful I have the opportunity now to move forward. During the Capitol events, Keller was seen wearing his U.S. Olympic team jacket. He admitted to trying to obstruct Congress's certification of the 2020 election results and said that he destroyed evidence afterwards, including tossing the jacket and destroying his cell phone, trying to keep federal officials from seeing his cell phone records. Didn't work, though. You can't destroy it. If you have a cell phone, don't call anybody, don't text anybody that you don't want the feds looking at later down the road, because they can always pull it up. They can resurrect it. Keller says he feels like something has been restored. He said, I'm not angry. I'm not a victim. I feel blessed to have this opportunity of life again. I've learned a lot of lessons, and I'm going to take these lessons forward. God bless this young man. And look, maybe he has learned for this, and he'll have a great life. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. At a breakneck speed, President Trump not wasting any time, delivering on a lot of his promises this week. And, of course, securing the borders at the top of the list. Just 3 days into his second term, President Trump ordered the deployment of 1,500 additional troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, a major step towards restoring law and order, protecting American sovereignty, protecting American people. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed that that this had taken place, saying this is something President Trump campaigned on. The American people have been waiting for such a time as this for our Department of Defense to actually take Homeland Security seriously. Let's talk some of the numbers here. The U.S. Northern Command estimates 2,500 service members are already attached to the federal border security mission, known as the Joint Task Force North. With this new deployment, this is about 4,000 troops bolstering our border defenses. And I got a feeling that if more is needed, he'll send more. These troops will assist with monitoring, intelligence, and even airlift support for deportation flights out of the key border sectors like San Diego and El Paso. And this is just the beginning. I mean, he's going to get the job done. On his very first evening back in the Oval Office, if you watched any of it the other night, he signed 10 executive orders focused on border security alone. Among them, a national emergency declaration at the southern border, an order titled Clarifying the Military's Role in Protecting the Territorial Integrity of the United States. And the administration's making it clear protecting America's border is a top priority, and we'll use our military to do it. We're not going to depend on the states to have their officers there. We're not going to depend on just the Border Patrol. We're going to back them up. We have military. They're trained. That's what we have them for, to protect our country. Meanwhile, states like Texas have been leading the charge on border security for years. Governor Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star. Remember, he deployed 4,500 National Guard troops to help seal off sections of the Texas border. Now with President Trump's back in the White House. And by the way, did you notice that Greg Abbott was there the other night? Federal and state efforts are aligning to secure the border like we've never seen it before. It's not going to stop there, though. Acting Secretary of Defense Robert Solis announced plans for even more support, including helicopters, intelligence analysts, and the construction of new barriers along the border. He says that this deployment is just the start, promising additional missions in cooperation with the Department of Homeland Security and state partners in the states who are willing to offer that help. Some states aren't, remember. Just yesterday, White House Border Czar Tom Homan confirmed that increased deportation activities were already underway. In his words, this is about protecting American lives, American jobs, and American communities. Well, we learned last night that in just 33 hours of Trump's second term, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents have hundreds of arrests of illegal immigrants already in the bag, many with dangerous criminal histories. Border Czar Tom Homan confirmed to Fox News that the deportation had started.
Absolutely. Look, the greatest president in my lifetime, he's back. Because in 2 days, the last 24 hours, total apprehensions on the southwest border, 766. Compare that to the 10 to 12,000 Biden had at one time. CBP-1 releases, 0. CHNV, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela releases, 0. Total of 766 across the entire southwest border. That is a game changer.
So what does this mean for public safety? The arrests include individuals charged with some heinous crimes like sexual assault, child abuse, aggravated assault, domestic violence, weapons offenses. Some of the most disturbing cases include a Mexican national arrested in Salt Lake City for the aggravated sexual abuse of a child. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, you allowed this. You're responsible for this. A Colombian national in San Francisco convicted of sexual penetration with a foreign object on an unaware victim. A Jamaican national in New York City charged with promoting and possessing child sexual performance materials. I mean, a lot of these sexual violence offenders, they should be flown directly across the border and dropped out. Don't waste around on them. Don't waste time. And we're told this is just the tip of the iceberg. ICE agents have also issued over 420 detainers for individuals charged with crimes like homicide, robbery, kidnapping. These arrests are happening all across the country, from Florida to California, from Illinois to New York, according to Mr. Holman. President Trump, again, made it crystal clear. Safety, security of American people come first. On day one, he signed a series of executive orders aimed at giving law enforcement the tools they need to enforce immigration laws and to protect our borders. No holds barred. Holman has made it very clear that his agents are going to go in and they're going to find these people, whether local officials cooperate or not. Some of the orders that Trump signed, one titled "Clarifying the Military's Role in Protecting the Territorial Integrity of the United States," empowers the Department of Defense to work alongside DHS to secure our borders. This renewed enforcement, it's already made waves in Boston, where agents arrested multiple MS-13 gang members and suspects wanted for murder and rape. Fox News' Bill Malugin was on the ground reporting live as these dangerous criminals were taken off the streets. Let's not forget about the administration's broader efforts, though. ICE is ramping up deportation flights with additional airlift capabilities provided by the military. Includes deporting more than 5,000 illegal immigrants from key sectors like San Diego and El Paso right away. And again, when I read these stories and I read the reports, and it talks about that some of these have already made waves, like in Boston, again, I don't get it. Why would any Boston official not want the federal government removing a murderer or a rapist from their city? Why? Can anyone help me with that? Why would you want a murderer in your city, and particularly a murderer who's not even shouldn't even be in the country, who's illegally came into our country? Trump's border czar Holman summed it up best. He said, right out of the gate, it's public safety threats that we're targeting. But let me be clear. Sanctuary cities have forced us to go into neighborhoods to make these arrests, and we're not stopping until the job is done. And I believe him. I believe he's not going to stop until the job's done. And again, when you hear who some of these people are, it's just maddening to know that they've been protected in the past. Jesse Waters did a great job as this news broke yesterday that hundreds had already been detained and were on their way out of the country. He kind of summed it up in his usual Jesse Waters humorous fashion when he gave examples of some of the people who were protected. Listen in.
Fox News alert: the largest mass deportation operation in U.S. history has begun. Primetime got its hands on exclusive photos of ICE raids from across the country. In New York, ICE arrested El Salvadorian illegal Jose Roberto Rodriguez with ties to MS-13. In Miami, 6 Guatemalan illegals were captured. All of them had lengthy rap sheets, including battery, child abuse, fraud, DUI, trespassing, and vandalism. In Baltimore, ICE arrested Miguel Ramirez Fajardo, a Mexican national who illegally entered the United States. His only crime? Breaking into the country that we know of. And in New York, again, ICE nabbed Camaro Denver Hay, a Jamaican who was previously arrested for possession of child porn. These are just some of the hundreds of illegals that ICE apprehended in the last few days. South America, Africa, the Middle East. These guys are from all over. And they're some of the most violent criminals you can think of. Homicide, sex assault, smuggling, kidnapping, robbery, battery, drugs and weapons offenses. This is all happening as the Pentagon's sending 1,500 troops to the southern border. And it's not just ground operations. The Coast Guard's moving vessels south, some going to the Gulf of America. For 4 years, we were told that Biden couldn't fix the border crisis through executive action. And yet there Trump is, reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, killing Biden's border app, erasing catch and release, and designating cartels terrorist organizations. Biden had banned ICE agents from arresting illegals in what he called sensitive areas. These sensitive areas included schools, hospitals, places of worship, any place where children gather, social service centers, disaster areas, funerals, weddings, protests, and parades. A criminal alien could be serving fries at your daughter's school cafeteria, and ICE wouldn't be able to go in and get him. A migrant sex trafficker could be luring little girls into his van at a playground, and ICE couldn't touch him. If El Chapo himself was roaming around the Pacific Palisades, ICE would have to leave him alone because it's a disaster area. A Biden migrant gun trafficker attending the wedding of a Venezuelan national in New Jersey. ICE couldn't grab him. ICE couldn't grab either of them. ICE couldn't even slap handcuffs on them at the cocktail hour or at the reception, because that's technically still the wedding.
So when you hear the leftists in the media talking about, oh, Trump's going to allow these people to be arrested in their churches, in their schools, Jesse Waters kind of summed things up very well there, didn't he? It's not about the fact that it's a school or a church. It's the fact that these people are savvy enough to understand that under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they could go to church and be protected. They could go to a school, as Jesse described. They could go to their child's school or anybody's child's school and be serving pizza and not be able to be arrested. And that's the absurdity of the left. And some of them still defend that. Some of them believe that they should still have these protections. Is there any scenario that you can think of where an illegal murderer or rapist should be protected just simply because he's in church? That he shouldn't be arrested because he's in church? Are we that stupid? Not anymore. Not under Trump 2.0. We got a good many text messages, emails. I'll try to share some with you if we have the time here. First, though, back to some of the initial things that Donald Trump has done this week. One of the things, of course, was he signed legislation that's going to eliminate DEI. We've talked about that. It's going to define very simply that there's a man and a woman, period, end of sentence. His common sense and biological truth, if you want to call it that, of course, is sparking outrage from some of the activists on the far left. And the latest comments from an ACLU lawyer have conservatives just literally scratching their heads. Yesterday, Chase Strangio is a transgender activist and lawyer for the ACLU and appeared on the left-wing program Democracy Now! With the intent to criticize President Trump's executive order on sex and gender. Now, this executive order, again, signed on his first day in office, clarifies federal policy to recognize two biological sexes, male and female, and protect spaces like single-sex shelters for women. Now, get this. During the interview, Strangio referred to biological women as non-transgender women. He can't even, or she, I don't even know what he is. I don't know if it's a male or female. It looks like a male, but maybe it's a female. I don't know. Anyway, this person, this activist, couldn't even bring himself to simply say women. Strangio argued that President Trump's executive order, quote, targets trans people and claimed that it will exclude trans people from various forms of shelter systems, including rape crisis centers and other intimate spaces. What Strangio conveniently ignores, though, is that the executive order is about protecting women, real women, biological women, not men who pretend to be women, not men who want to go into spaces where women are most vulnerable. But this guy, girl, whatever he is, honestly, again, I don't know, is the same person who argued on CNN that children should be allowed to receive treatment to begin the transitioning process. Listen to this.
Nobody has to provide this medication to adolescents. These are not doctors being forced to provide this medication. These are doctors who are wanting to treat their patients in the best way that they know how, based on the best available evidence to us. And these are young people who may have known since they were 2 years old exactly who they are, who suffered for 6-7 years before they had any relief. And what's happening here, it's not the kids who are consenting to this treatment, it's the parents who are consenting to the treatment. And as a parent, I would say, when our children are suffering, we are suffering. And these are parents who love their children, who are listening to the advice of their doctors, of the mainstream medical community, and doing what's right for their kids. And the state of Tennessee has displaced their judgment.
Now, when you're watching the video, he looks like a man, but sounds like a woman, doesn't he? I think he's a biological woman who's pretending to be a man. I don't know. But anyway, you heard the argument that a 2-year-old knows about their true sex. What 2-year-old is confused about whether they're a boy or a girl? What 2-year-old even knows anything about sex and gender? It's the most absurd argument I've ever heard. And boy, am I glad that this is behind us. Yeah, there's going to be some fights along the way, but at least we have someone in the Oval Office, and we have a federal government now who's going to fight for common sense. The executive order is titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology, Extremism, and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. I think they could have come up with a shorter name, but that's it. It takes a stand against the radical gender policies of the Biden administration and people like this attorney with the ACLU. It directs federal agencies to adopt policies that acknowledge the biological differences between men and women and to safeguard spaces meant for women, like locker rooms, like restrooms, like shelters. It's just that simple. And while this Strangio and the ACLU are outraged, the American people are breathing a sigh of relief. Women across the country, moms, daughters, sisters, deserve safety and dignity in spaces meant for women, biological women. President Trump is ensuring that radical activists can't undermine those rights anymore. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's led the charge for single-sex facilities in the Capitol, responded to Strangio's comments by saying, "No, we're women, just women. There is no and/or situation here," and she's right. God don't make no mistakes. By the way, I got a phone call yesterday. There's a voice message, supposedly from FEMA. They say they need some information from me. I wasn't even aware that I had a FEMA file. Here, I want you to listen in. Tell me what you think.
Good afternoon. My name is Sabrina, calling from FEMA Disaster Assistance. Joey Hudson, we were making a courtesy call to complete some missing information on your file. If you please give FEMA a call back at 1-800-621-3362. Again, that's FEMA, 1-800-621-3362. Thank you for your time.
Now, I don't even know that I have a FEMA file. When she references my FEMA file and misinformation, I don't know what it could be about. Should I call them? Text me. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. On the text line, texter says, "Joey, I was at Leonard Skinner's last show. Great show. Sad morning. You brought back old memories. I was at Kiss's show when the fire broke out and that man fell through the ceiling, straight in front of me on the other side of the Memorial Auditorium. As much as I love these days with Trump, but I wished I could go back, if just for a few hours, to those days when the world was also a lot different." Thank you and Mike G for going up. He owes you for being cold, out in the cold, and him inside. I love you both. Have a great day. Barry. Thank you, Barry. Appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. Mike does owe me for he ran to the nice warm studio, put me out in the cold. Look, I would not have wanted to been anywhere else but out in the cold, talking to people. It was a great fun as our president was being sworn in and all the festivities around the Capitol. It was great fun. I'm glad that I was out in the cold. Albert writes, the Democrats created the deportation of illegal immigrants issue. If the immigration laws would have been enforced over the last 4 years, it wouldn't be necessary to be deporting immigrants because they would be legal immigrants. The Democrats seem to enjoy destroying our country. Yes, they do. That is for sure. Texter, Joey, when the Constitution was written, our country basically had no illegals. All coming to the U.S. at that point in time came through Ellis Island, including my great-granddad. So my point is that foreigners then were legal and had resources to care for themselves. Good point. They did, didn't they? And by all means, their children were citizens. Illegal humans in our country today should have no right to believe their children are children. They have not one dime to care for themselves. End of statement. And that's right. It's a lot different now than it was back in the day, isn't it? Because people did come here, maybe not with a lot, but they came here with the will to work, the desire to work, and to improve the country. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who come into our country now come in expecting a handout, expecting us to give them a free cell phone, expecting us to put them up in a nice apartment in New York City or a hotel, expecting us to give them a credit card with $5,000 on it, expecting us to give them a free airplane ticket or a bus ride to a city of their choice. Yes, it's a lot different now. Some of them don't even want to come here and work. Now, I get it. A lot of them do. And the minister, the Episcopal bishop yesterday who talked about and to kind of called the president out, and boy, she caught the flack, hasn't she? And the president really called her out as well when she's talking about, well, these are our landscapers, our cooks, our waitresses and all. I get that. But our economy can absorb those jobs. There are Americans out there who want those jobs as well. The left wants you to think that's not the case, but I think there's plenty of people who would like those jobs. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.